At 36, I stood in the driveway of my dream home, a $2 million colonial nestled in Boston's suburbs. 15 years of grinding as a tech executive, countless late nights, missed holidays, and sacrifices got me here. This house wasn't just brick and mortar, it was my sanctuary, the physical proof of a life built on my terms. Every detail, the gourmet kitchen, the sprawling pool, the master suite that felt like a luxury retreat, whispered success. I'd saved diligently, lived modestly, and poured my heart into this milestone. That night, I planned a housewarming to share my joy with 40 guests, friends, colleagues, neighbors, and family. I could already hear the laughter, the clink of champagne glasses, the warmth of celebration filling every room. But as the evening unfolded, my sister Sienna stood up during my toast, her voice cutting through the festive hum. Her words hit like a thunderbolt, leaving 40 guests frozen and me utterly speechless. What she announced turned my dream into a nightmare, unraveling everything I thought this night would be. This wasn't just about a house, it was about boundaries, family, and the weight of expectations I'd carried since childhood. Growing up, Sienna was my protector, 4 years older, always stepping in when I needed her. But our paths diverged. While she built a family, I chased a career, climbing from MIT to CTO. I thought this house would bridge our differences, a place to reconnect. Instead, it became the stage for a drama I never saw coming. If you've ever faced family tension that tested your limits or fought to protect what you've built, you'll understand what's at stake. This story isn't just mine, it's about the moment love and obligation collide, forcing you to choose between your heart and your hard-won peace. Stick with me to see how it unfolded, how one night changed my family forever. If you've ever had to stand your ground, hit that subscribe button and join me. Let's dive into a story of dreams, betrayal, and the boundaries that define us. Share your own experiences in the comments, I want to hear them. Let's begin. Growing up in a middle-class Boston neighborhood, I never imagined I'd one day own a $2 million home. My name's Corinne Vale, and at 36, I stood at the pinnacle of a career I'd poured my soul into. It started with a spark. Computers fascinated me as a kid. I'd spend hours in our local library, teaching myself to code on outdated PCs. That passion led to a full scholarship at MIT, a dream my parents could barely believe. College wasn't easy. I juggled coursework, part-time jobs, and the pressure to prove I belonged. While my friends partied, I was in the lab, debugging code until dawn. By 22, I graduated with honors in computer science, my eyes set on Silicon Valley. My first job was as a junior developer at a scrappy startup. The hours were brutal, 80 a week, sometimes more. I missed birthdays, holidays, even my dad's retirement party. But every late night, every missed moment, was a brick in the foundation of my future. By 28, I'd climbed to Chief Technology Officer at a rising tech firm, the youngest woman in their history. The title came with pride but also isolation. I didn't date much, relationships took time I didn't have. At 32, a bigger company headhunted me, doubling my salary. It was validation, but the grind never stopped. Through it all, I lived modestly. My apartment in Boston was nice but small, my car practical, my one indulgence an annual trip abroad to recharge. I wasn't chasing flashy things, I was chasing security, a home that screamed, I made it. Every bonus, every raise, went into savings. By 36, I had enough for my dream, a $2 million colonial in Boston's suburbs. Signing those closing papers felt like crossing a finish line. This wasn't just a house, it was proof of every sacrifice, every choice to put career first. I'd built a life on my terms, and no one could take that away. Or so I thought. As I planned my housewarming, I imagined sharing this milestone with everyone I loved. But life, as it often does, had other plans, and my sister Sienna was about to turn my world upside down. While I was coding in labs, my sister Sienna took a different road. 4 years older, she was always the caretaker, the one who helped me with homework or scared off bullies. Growing up, we were close, but our paths split in our 20s. At 23, Sienna met Derek Holt during her sophomore year at college. They fell hard and fast, and before she could finish her degree, she was pregnant with their first daughter, Juniper. She dropped out, married Derek, and by 30, she was a mom of 4, Juniper, now 14, Hazel, 11, Clover, 9, and Wren, 6. Sienna's life became her family. She traded lecture halls for diaper changes, textbooks for bedtime stories. Derek worked as a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company, a steady job but not lucrative. Supporting 4 kids on one income stretched them thin. Their 3-bedroom home, modest even in a good market, felt smaller every year. The girls shared rooms, their toys spilling into every corner. I'd visit and see the strain, bills piling up, Sienna's tired eyes as she juggled a part-time job and motherhood. They weren't poor, but they were always one emergency away from breaking. I'd hear it in her voice when we talked, the way she'd deflect questions about money. "We're fine, Corinne," she'd say, but I knew better. A chemical plant opened near their neighborhood, tanking property values. Their house, once a decent investment, was now a financial anchor. Derek's commissions shrank when his company restructured, and Sienna's part-time hours got cut. They were drowning, but pride kept them silent. I was too wrapped up in my own world to push harder, to ask the right questions. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. As I prepared to show off my new home, Sienna was fighting a battle I didn't fully understand, one that would crash into my life at the worst possible moment. My dream home was everything I'd imagined. A 5-bedroom colonial on 2 acres of pristine land, it stood like a monument to my hard work. The gourmet kitchen gleamed with marble countertops, perfect for the dinner parties I dreamed of hosting. The master suite felt like a luxury hotel, with a spa-like bathroom and a sitting area for quiet nights. A sunroom overlooked a manicured garden, a pool sparkled in the backyard, and a home office with custom bookshelves waited for my late-night work sessions. One bedroom would be a guest room, another a gym. The 5th? Maybe a library someday. Every room held possibility, a canvas for the life I wanted to build. Planning the housewarming was almost as thrilling as buying the house. I invited 40 people, colleagues who'd seen my grind, college friends who knew my roots, neighbors curious about the new face on the block, and, of course, my family. I wanted this night to mark a new chapter, to root me in this community. I hired an upscale caterer for hors d'oeuvres and desserts, ordered premium wines, and even got a bartender to keep the drinks flowing. A decorator helped furnish the main spaces, though I left some rooms bare, waiting for inspiration. The morning of the party, I was up at dawn, adjusting pillows, straightening frames, ensuring every detail was perfect. White lilies graced the entryway, wildflowers brightened the sunroom, roses adorned the dining table. This wasn't just a party, it was a celebration of everything I'd sacrificed for. I imagined my parents' proud smiles, my friends' awe, my colleagues' toasts. Even Sienna, who'd been distant lately, seemed excited when I called. "We'd love to see it, Corinne," she said, though her voice lacked its usual warmth. I brushed it off, too caught up in my excitement. As the first guests arrived, I felt a glow of accomplishment. This house, this night, was mine. But as the evening wore on, I'd learned that even the best-laid plans can unravel when family and expectations collide. Sienna and I weren't always at odds, but our childhood planted seeds of tension. She was the selfless one, praised for watching me while Mom worked late. I was the ambitious one, always chasing grades, scholarships, dreams. Our parents loved us both, but their words stung. "Corinne's so driven," they'd say, as if Sienna's sacrifices were nobler. I felt it, the subtle implication that my goals made me selfish. Sienna got applause for staying home, I got raised eyebrows for leaving. Those labels stuck, burrowing into our relationship like splinters. In my 30s, I started therapy to unpack that baggage. My therapist helped me see the guilt I carried for outshining Sienna, for choosing career over family. I'd lie awake wondering if I'd been too focused, too distant. One night, scrolling X, I stumbled on a post about work-life balance. Someone wrote, "I built my dream career, but my family calls me cold. How do you win?" The replies, hundreds of them, echoed my struggle. Strangers shared stories of guilt, of being the successful sibling while others floundered. One comment stuck, "You don't owe anyone your life, but you can still love them." It hit hard, like a truth I'd always known but couldn't name. I thought my housewarming might mend things with Sienna, a chance to show her I hadn't forgotten our roots. I wanted her to see my home not as a flex, but as a bridge between us. How wrong I was. That night, those childhood resentments would boil over, and a single post on X couldn't prepare me for the storm Sienna was about to unleash. If you've ever felt torn between your dreams and your family, you'll know the weight I carried into that party. The housewarming party was everything I'd dreamed it would be, at least at first. By 5 o'clock, my new home buzzed with life. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors streamed through the front door, their voices mingling with the soft clink of glasses and the hum of laughter. I'd spent weeks planning this night, wanting every detail to reflect the milestone I'd reached. The caterers circulated with trays of delicate appetizers, mini crab cakes, bruschetta, smoked salmon canapés. The bartender mixed cocktails with flair, and the scent of white lilies filled the entryway. I felt like I was floating, my heart swelling with pride as I welcomed each guest into my $2 million sanctuary. My colleague Jason arrived first, his wife clutching a potted orchid as a housewarming gift. "Corinne, this place is unreal," he said, his eyes wide as he took in the soaring foyer. My college roommate, Stephanie, drove in from New Hampshire, pulling me into a tight hug. "You've come so far," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Neighbors I'd met during move-in dropped by with bottles of wine, their curiosity about the new tech exec on the block barely concealed. My father, Warren, gave me a rare hug, his eyes glistening. "Beautiful home, sweetheart," he said before heading to the bar for a scotch. Even the air felt electric, charged with the promise of new beginnings. But not everyone shared my joy. My mother, Evelyn, arrived early, her eyes scanning the house with a mix of pride and something else, disapproval, maybe. As I showed her the empty bedrooms, she lingered in the doorway of what would become my gym, a yoga mat the only occupant. "What are you doing with all this space?" she asked, her tone pointed. "It's an awful lot of house for one person." I forced a smile, brushing it off as generational differences. "I've got plans, Mom," I said, steering her to the kitchen to help with platters. Her words stung, though, a reminder of the expectations I'd never quite met. By 6:30, the party was in full swing, but Sienna and her family still hadn't shown. I texted her, "Everything okay?" "Party started an hour ago." Her reply was quick, "Running late. Derek had work. Be there soon." I sighed, trying not to let it dampen my mood. Sienna was always late these days, her life a whirlwind of 4 kids and endless demands. When the doorbell finally rang at 7, I opened it to find her, Derek, and their daughters, Juniper, Hazel, Clover, and Wren, crowded on my doorstep. Sienna looked frazzled, her hair in a messy bun, her dress thrown on in haste. Derek offered a tight smile, a gift bag dangling from his hand. The girls, though, were bursting with energy. "Aunt Corinne, your house is like a castle," Hazel squealed, pushing past me into the foyer. I laughed, but something in Sienna's eyes, a flicker of strain, made my stomach twist. This night was about to take a turn I never could have predicted. As the party hummed along, I noticed Sienna seemed distracted, her gaze darting around my home like she was cataloging every detail. I offered to give her and Derek a tour, hoping to share my excitement. "Absolutely," Sienna said, her voice oddly eager. "The girls are probably exploring already." I led them through the house, pointing out the features I loved: the sunroom's garden view, the master suite spa-like bathroom, the office with its custom bookshelves. Derek nodded politely, but Sienna's comments grew sharper with each room, each one a needle pricking my pride. In the gourmet kitchen, she ran her hand over the marble island, her lips curling into a half-smile. "This is bigger than our entire first floor," she said, her tone light but laced with something heavier. I laughed it off, assuming she was joking, but her eyes didn't match her smile. In the master bedroom, she stepped into my walk-in closet, her fingers brushing the built-in shelves. "You could fit our girls' bunk beds in here," she murmured, almost to herself. Derek shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tight, but he said nothing. I felt a chill, her words landing like warnings I couldn't yet decode. When we reached one of the empty bedrooms, Sienna lingered, peering out the window at the pool below. "This would be perfect for Juniper and Hazel," she said, her voice deliberate. "They're crammed into a room half this size at home." I froze, unsure if I'd heard her right. Derek cleared his throat, a subtle warning. "Sienna," he said quietly, but she ignored him, moving to the next room, my future office. "This gets the best light," she noted, her hand tracing the desk. "It'd make a great playroom for Clover and Wren." My chest tightened, her casual suggestions feeling like claims on my space. I tried to steer the tour back to safer ground, pointing out the backyard's landscaping, but Sienna's focus stayed sharp. "The pool's perfect for the girls," she said, her voice growing bolder. "They'd love swimming here every summer." Derek's eyes met mine, apologetic, but he stayed silent. I forced a smile, my mind racing. Was she just admiring my home, or was something else at play? Her comments weren't compliments, they were calculations, each one chipping away at the joy I'd felt hours ago. I'd spent years building this life, this house, and now my sister was walking through it like it was hers to reimagine. By the time we returned to the party, my excitement had dulled, replaced by a nagging unease. Sienna's words echoed in my head, each one a reminder of the gap between our lives. I didn't know it then, but she was laying the groundwork for a bombshell that would shatter the night. As I rejoined my guests, I couldn't shake the feeling that my dream home was no longer just mine. Something was coming, and I wasn't ready for it. The party rolled on, the dining room glowing with candlelight as guests filled their plates from the caterer's buffet. I moved through the crowd, playing hostess, but my mind was still on Sienna's strange comments. By 8, everyone was seated, some at the long dining table, others at smaller ones in the living room. The atmosphere felt perfect, a moment I'd worked years to create. I stood at the head of the table, champagne glass in hand, ready to toast the night I'd dreamed of. The room quieted, eyes turning to me, smiles warm and expectant. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady despite the unease lingering in my chest. "This house represents years of hard work, sacrifices, and dreams. It's more than a home, it's a new beginning. Having you here to share this milestone means everything. Cheers to good friends, family, and the future we build together." Glasses clinked, laughter rippled, and I felt a surge of gratitude. This was my moment, my triumph. But before I could sit, a chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. Sienna stood across the table, her face set with a strange, determined smile. "Since we're making announcements," she said, her voice carrying over the now silent room, "I have some exciting news of my own." Derek's head snapped up, his eyes wide with alarm. My mother, Evelyn, leaned forward, still holding little Wren, her curiosity piqued. I frowned, confused but expectant. Maybe they were moving to a new neighborhood, or Derek got a promotion. "What's the news?" I asked, my glass still raised. Sienna's smile widened, her gaze locking onto mine. "We're moving in with you," she declared, loud and clear. The words hit like a punch. My glass trembled in my hand, nearly slipping. The room fell into a stunned silence, forks pausing mid-air, guests exchanging awkward glances. "What?" I managed, my voice barely a whisper. "We're moving in with you," Sienna repeated, louder, as if daring me to challenge her. "The girls need more space, and you've got all these empty rooms. It just makes sense." Evelyn beamed, bouncing Ren on her knee. "Isn't it wonderful?" she said, oblivious to my shock. "The girls will have room to grow, and you won't be alone in this big house." Guests, mostly family friends, started nodding, some even clapping, as if I'd agreed to this. "So generous, Corinne," my mom's friend Susan said. "Family taking care of family," another added, raising his glass. I stood frozen, my dream night unraveling. Juniper, Sienna's eldest, piped up, "We're living here?" Her eyes sparkled with wonder. "Yes, sweetie," Sienna said, her tone final. "Aunt Corinne has space and wants to share." I opened my mouth to protest, but the applause drowned me out. My house, my sanctuary, was being claimed before my eyes, and I hadn't said a word to allow it. I couldn't breathe. Excusing myself from the table, I followed Sienna, Evelyn, and the girls upstairs, my heart pounding. Hazel and Clover were already jumping on the guest room bed, giggling. "Girls, stop," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "Sienna, we need to talk. Now." She shrugged, opening a closet door. "Say it here, Corinne. We're family." Evelyn nodded, measuring windows for child-friendly curtains. I took a deep breath, anger rising. I never agreed to this. This is my house. Sienna turned, her face hardening. "You have 5 bedrooms, Corinne." 5. For one person. Our twins share a room the size of your bathroom. Her voice cracked, revealing strain. "What's going on?" I pressed. "Why are you selling your house?" She hesitated, then admitted, "We're underwater. The bank's foreclosing. We owe more than it's worth." Juniper, lingering in the doorway, overheard and burst into tears, running off. Sienna's composure faltered, but she pulled out her phone, showing me a TikTok-inspired vision board. "I've been planning," she said, scrolling through bunk beds and playroom ideas for my house. "It's perfect for the girls." I was stunned. "You planned this without asking me?" Her silence was answer enough. Evelyn chimed in, "Family helps family, Corinne. Don't be selfish." The word cut deep, dragging me back to a childhood memory, Sienna taking blame for a broken heirloom to protect me. She'd always sacrificed, but now her desperation felt like betrayal. "You should have told me," I said, my voice low. "Not ambushed me in front of everyone." Sienna's eyes flashed. "I tried calling, but you were too busy with your perfect life." The truth spilled out, Derek's pay cut, medical bills, a chemical plant ruining their home's value. They had 30 days before foreclosure. I felt guilt, anger, and helplessness collide. Juniper's sobs echoed down the hall, a reminder this wasn't just about us. Sienna's TikTok board glowed on her phone, a digital invasion of my home. I'd worked years for this sanctuary, but my sister saw it as her salvation. As the party continued below, I stood in my own house, feeling like a stranger, knowing this confrontation was only the beginning. The upstairs hallway felt like a battlefield, the echoes of Juniper's sobs still lingering as I faced Sienna and my mother, Evelyn. My heart pounded, torn between anger at Sienna's ambush and guilt over her family's desperation. I'd just learned they were facing foreclosure, their home underwater after a chemical plant ruined its value. Sienna's TikTok vision board, with its bunk beds and playroom plans for my house, still burned in my mind. But I wasn't defenseless. I had a card to play, one I'd kept close until now. Sienna, I said, my voice low but steady, there's something you need to know. A week before the party, I'd met Craig Wilson, Derek's colleague, at a networking event. Over drinks, he mentioned Sienna's family was in trouble, 5 months behind on their mortgage, the bank circling like vultures. I couldn't let that slide. I'd worked too hard to watch my sister's family crumble, even if her announcement felt like a betrayal. So I acted. I contacted their lender, dug into my savings, and bought their mortgage outright. It was a risk, but it gave me leverage, a way to help without surrendering my home. Standing there, with Evelyn still muttering about child-friendly curtains, I laid it out. I own your mortgage now, I said, watching Sienna's face freeze. I bought it last week. Your house isn't going to foreclosure anymore. Evelyn gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Sienna blinked, her defiance crumbling into confusion. What does that mean? She asked, her voice small. I explained, a rent-to-own deal. They'd stay in their home, paying me affordable rent based on Derek's income. In 5 years, they could buy it back at a fair price, no bank involved. The girls wouldn't lose their home, they'd have stability. But my house, my sanctuary, remained mine. Sienna stared, her phone with its vision board forgotten in her hand. You did that? She whispered. I nodded. I couldn't let the girls lose everything, but I also can't let you take my home. This is the middle ground. Evelyn frowned, clearly unhappy, but Derek, who'd been silent, stepped forward. That's incredible, Corinne, he said, his voice thick. I could see the weight lifting from him, the fear of uprooting his family easing. For the first time that night, I felt in control, like I'd reclaimed my space without abandoning my family. But the fight wasn't over. Sienna's reaction was one thing, but Evelyn's expectations loomed, and I braced myself for the pushback I knew was coming. Sienna stood frozen, her eyes darting between me and the floor, processing the lifeline I'd just thrown her. The guest room, where Hazel and Clover had been jumping moments ago, felt suffocatingly quiet. You bought our mortgage, she repeated, as if testing the words. You're letting us stay in our house? I nodded, my resolve firm despite the emotions swirling inside. Yes, Sienna. You pay rent you can afford, and in 5 years, you can own it again. It's not charity, it's a plan that works for everyone. Derek exhaled, a mix of relief and gratitude softening his face. Thank you, Corinne, he said, his voice breaking. You didn't have to do this. Sienna's shoulders slumped, her earlier bravado gone. I don't know what to say, she murmured. Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, I saw the sister who'd protected me as a kid, not the woman who tried to claim my home. I'm sorry, she said finally, her voice barely audible. I was desperate. I thought you'd say no if I asked outright. Her apology caught me off guard, softening my anger. I wanted to hug her, but the sting of her ambush kept me rooted. You should have trusted me, I said. We're family, not enemies. But Evelyn wasn't ready to let it go. She stepped forward, still cradling Wren, her face set in that familiar stubborn line. This is all well and good, Corinne, but why not just let them live here? You've got the space, 5 bedrooms for one person. It's selfish to keep it all to yourself. That word, selfish, cut like a knife, dragging me back to childhood, when my ambition was framed as a flaw. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Mom, this isn't about space, I said, my voice calm but unyielding. This is my home, my sanctuary. I worked 15 years for this. Helping Sienna doesn't mean giving up what's mine. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, but I didn't back down. Sienna and Derek have a home now, a stable one. The girls aren't losing anything. This respects their needs and mine. Sienna nodded slowly, her hand reaching for Derek's. "She's right, Mom," she said, her voice stronger. "We'll be okay in our house. This is better." Evelyn huffed, but the fight drained from her. The party still buzzed downstairs, oblivious to our drama, but in that moment, I felt a shift. Sienna's apology, Derek's gratitude, and my own resolve had redrawn the lines. My home was mine again, but the family I loved was still intact. As we stood in the guest room, the tension began to ease, but the air still carried the weight of what had just happened. Derek, who'd been mostly silent, finally spoke, his voice low and raw. "I told Sienna not to do it," he admitted, glancing at his wife. "The announcement, I mean. I knew it was wrong to spring it on you like that, Corinne, but she was so scared. We both were. Losing our home, moving the girls, it felt like our world was collapsing." His honesty hit me hard. I'd seen Derek as complicit, but now I saw a man caught between his wife's desperation and his own pride. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, softer now. He shrugged, his eyes tired. "You're so successful, Corinne. It's hard to admit we're failing when you're, winning." His words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they echoed my own guilt. I'd been so focused on my career, my house, that I hadn't seen how far my sister's family had fallen. But I wasn't the villain here, and neither were they. We were just human, tangled in love and pride and fear. That night, I made a choice, not just to help them, but to rebuild what we'd lost. Sienna squeezed Derek's hand, a silent acknowledgement of their shared struggle. "We'll make this work," she said, looking at me. "We'll pay the rent, save up." "Thank you, Corinne." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Later that week, I did something I hadn't done before. I posted about the drama on X, anonymously. My sister announced she's moving into my new house without asking. I found a way to help, but it's tearing us apart. "Anyone else been here?" The replies poured in, hundreds of strangers sharing their own stories. One wrote, "I gave my family my guest room, and they took over my life. You did the right thing setting boundaries." Another said, "Helping family doesn't mean giving up your space. You're a rock star for finding a middle ground." Reading those words felt like a weight lifting. I wasn't alone. Others had walked this tightrope, balancing love with self-respect. The support gave me clarity. I'd made the right call, not just for me, but for all of us. The real turning point came a month later, when I started Niece Day with Juniper, Sienna's eldest. She was 14, quiet since the party, carrying the weight of her family's struggles. I invited her over to my home office, set up with 2 monitors and a coding program. "You ever try this?" I asked, showing her a simple Python script. Her eyes lit up as she typed her first line of code, a spark I recognized from my own childhood. We spent hours debugging, laughing when the program crashed, cheering when it worked. "Aunt Corinne, can we do this again?" she asked, her shy smile breaking through. Those days became our ritual, a way to connect without the baggage of that night. Hazel, Clover, and Wren joined sometimes, painting in my sunroom or splashing in the pool, but Juniper's coding sessions were special, a bridge between my world and theirs. In therapy, I'd been wrestling with the guilt of outshining Sienna, of choosing my path over the family's expectations. My therapist said something that stuck: boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about letting love in safely. That quote became my anchor. Helping Sienna's family didn't mean sacrificing my home, it meant finding a way to support them while protecting my peace. Those niece days, those X replies, that therapy session, they all showed me family could thrive without merging our lives. Sienna and I started monthly dinners, talking about dreams, regrets, and the girls' futures. Derek sent me a text one night: "You gave us a second chance. We won't forget it." For the first time in years, I felt like we were equals, not competitors in some unspoken race. My house was still my sanctuary, but now it was a place where family could grow, not collide. In the weeks after the housewarming, my home began to feel like mine again, but with a new warmth I hadn't expected. The drama of Sienna's announcement faded, replaced by a cautious rebuilding of our family. I started hosting Sunday dinners, inviting Sienna, Derek, and their girls, Juniper, Hazel, Clover, and Wren, over to my dining room. The table, once set for a tense party, now held platters of roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and laughter. The girls brought life to the house, their chatter filling the air as they recounted school dramas or argued over dessert. Juniper, the eldest at 14, would linger after dinner, sketching in my sunroom, her quiet presence a reminder of how close we'd come to losing each other. Those dinners became sacred. Sienna and I carved out time afterward for what we called sister nights, sitting in my kitchen with glasses of wine, talking about dreams we'd buried and regrets we'd carried. She opened up about the pressure of motherhood, the fear of failing her girls. I shared my own struggles, the loneliness of my climb, the guilt of outshining her. For the first time, we weren't the selfless sister or the selfish one, we were just Corinne and Sienna, equals trying to understand each other. Derek joined sometimes, his gratitude quiet but clear in the way he'd help clear plates or thank me for the rent-to-own deal that kept their home safe. The girls transformed my house in small, beautiful ways. Clover, 9 and fearless, claimed the pool as her domain, doing cannonballs that soaked anyone nearby. Hazel, 11, turned my guest room into an art studio, leaving glitter on the floor despite my mock protests. Wren, the youngest at 6, loved curling up in my office chair, helping me with emails. These moments weren't invasions, they were invitations, a way to share my space on my terms. My home remained my sanctuary, but it was richer for their presence, a place where love could grow without swallowing me whole. Even my mother, Evelyn, softened. One evening, as we washed dishes together, she admitted she'd been wrong to push for Sienna to move in. "I just wanted everyone together," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "But you found a better way, Corinne. You kept the family whole without losing yourself." Her words healed a wound I hadn't named, a validation I'd craved since childhood. Those dinners, those quiet moments, showed me family didn't have to mean sacrifice, it could mean respect, balance, and a home that welcomed without surrendering. My $2 million colonial remained my sanctuary, a testament to 15 years of grinding as a tech executive. Its gourmet kitchen, sprawling pool, and sunroom overlooking the garden were still mine to enjoy, but now they held new meaning. I'd fought to protect this space, not out of selfishness, but because it represented my right to exist on my terms. Those empty bedrooms Evelyn once called wasteful? They weren't empty, they were possibilities. One became a gym where I reclaimed my mornings with yoga. Another waited as a guest room for friends, not obligations. The fifth, I decided, would one day be a library, a haven for the books I'd collect over a life I was still writing. That fight for my home changed me in ways I didn't expect. A few months after the party, I joined an online women's mentorship group, a community of professionals navigating ambition and family. I'd always been a mentor at work, but this felt deeper, a chance to help others claim their own sanctuaries. We met weekly on Zoom, sharing stories of setting boundaries, from saying no to toxic bosses to carving out personal time. One woman, a nurse named Lena, spoke of turning down her parents' request to fund their early retirement. "I felt guilty," she said, "until I realized my life isn't their safety net." Her story mirrored mine, and I shared how I'd bought Sienna's mortgage to help without losing my home. The group support felt like a mirror, showing me I wasn't alone in my struggle to balance success and duty. Around the same time, I stumbled on a TED Talk that crystallized everything I'd been learning. The speaker, a psychologist named Dr. Maya Carter, explored family dynamics, saying, "True connection comes when we honor each other's autonomy, not when we demand unity at any cost." Her words hit like a revelation, echoing my therapist's insight about boundaries being bridges for love. I watched the talk 3 times, scribbling notes, feeling validated in my choice to protect my home while helping Sienna's family. Dr. Carter's closing lines stayed with me: "You don't have to shrink your dreams to fit someone else's needs." That became my mantra, a reminder that my house, my career, my life were mine to shape, not obligations to surrender. Claiming my sanctuary wasn't just about a house, it was about claiming my place in my family as an equal, not the provider or the selfish one. Those mentorship calls, that TED Talk, showed me I'd done more than save Sienna's home. I'd redefined what family meant. My colonial was still my fortress, but now it was a place where I could invite love in, knowing I'd never lose myself to it. This story isn't just about a house or a family fight, it's about the moment you stand your ground, when love and obligation collide, and you choose yourself without losing those you care about. If you've ever had to set a boundary with family, you know how heavy that choice can be. Maybe you said no to a sibling's loan request or refused to host an endless holiday gathering. Maybe you, like me, found a way to help without giving up your peace. I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below. What was your moment of standing firm, and how did it change you? I read every single comment, and yours might spark the next conversation we have here. If this story hit home, smash that like button to let me know you're with me. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapter of my journey. I'm building a community here, one where we share real-life dramas, lessons, and triumphs. You don't want to miss what's coming. Speaking of, my next video dives into another family secret, one that nearly cost me my career. It's a story of loyalty, betrayal, and a choice that changed everything. Stick around to see how it unfolds, and let me know in the comments what family drama you want me to tackle next. I've been reading your comments on my last video, and one stood out. Sarah, you wrote, "My parents expected me to pay their bills after I got my first big job. Saying no was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it saved my mental health." Sarah, I feel you. That moment when you prioritize yourself, it's like breaking a chain you didn't know you were carrying. Thank you for sharing, and I bet others here have similar stories. Drop a reply to Sarah if you've been there, and let's keep this conversation going. This house, this family, this fight, it taught me that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors we open on our terms. Join me in building a space where we share these truths. Like, subscribe, comment, and let's keep telling stories that matter. Your voice is part of this, so let me hear it.